Next, let's look at predicting the sign of longer multiplications and divisions. So what do I mean by longer? Well, initially, we looked at just multiplying or dividing two numbers and predicting the sign of just two numbers. And that's kind of what this table, here is all about. And so you'll notice that whenever you're multiplying two numbers which have the same sign, so positive and positive gives you a positive, and a negative also gives you a positive. So if the signs are the same, you get a positive number. And if the signs are different, so where one is positive and the other is negative, then you end up with a negative number. And likewise, here you end up with a negative number. So that was kind of how you would look at predicting the sign of multiplying or dividing two numbers. But what if you've got four numbers or nine numbers or 21 numbers? How do you predict the sign there? So there's a few short rules. So in short, any number of positives being multiplied or divided will always result in a positive result. So it doesn't matter if you've got, three positives being multiplied together, that'll give you a positive product. It doesn't matter if you've got a lot more than that, it's still going to give you a positive product. So any number of positives will result in a positive result. Next, an odd number of negatives will always give you a negative result. So, let's say we looked at this scenario. So if you were to multiply all of these numbers together, you would just check and see if you've got an odd number of negatives. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have 5 negatives. And because we've got an odd number of negatives, our result will be negative. And so that's what that part B rule relates. And if we have an even number of negatives, then the result will be positive. Right? So if we look at a very similar example to what we just had, right, and we want to know what the resulting sign will be of this product, well, let's just count the number of negatives that we've got. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. And 4, we've got 4 negatives. 4 is an even number. And because 4 is an even number, our result will be positive. All right, so down below, I have some examples. So part A, this is an example of part A above, where we're multiplying 4 numbers. Each of these are positive, and the product of only positive numbers or the division of only positive numbers will give you a positive result. Part B, this is looking at the example of an odd number of negatives. So here we've got division, and we've got 1, 2, 3 negatives. So 3 negatives. So 3 negatives, that's an odd number of negatives. So that's going to give us a negative result. And that's with division, but it's also true here with multiplication. So we've got 1, 2, 3 negatives. Come on. So we've got 3 negatives. That's an odd number. So that'll give us a negative result. And then down here for C, this is where we have an even number of negatives. So here we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. So we've got 4 negatives. That's an even number. And when we've got an even number of negatives, it'll give us a positive result. And that's what we've got. And when we multiply an even number of negatives, this 1, 2, 3, 4, that's an even number of negatives, we get a positive result. Okay, so we need to keep that in mind moving forward. These basic rules of making sure that you keep the signs correct, because unfortunately, if you miss one sign somewhere in your multiplication, it will likely, most likely make your conclusion, your final resulting answer incorrect.